Wow. Thank you all for being here today. As Phil and Mike mentioned earlier in their presentations, this is an impressive gathering. And it's amazing that there are so many people heading in the same direction towards grid modernization as we look at the vendor community, as we look at the utility sector. It's a huge opportunity in which DOE in some ways had a small role in helping deploy through the recovery and reinvestment grants some of the projects that we actually started, which we hope will continue to stimulate and advance technology in the electric sector. As Steve brought up, it's not as easy, and that there are challenges that are out there as well. And one of the things that I want to just get across today is how do we overcome some of those challenges? What are some of the things that we want to do? And I try to keep things simple. I spend a lot of time in Washington, D.C., so I try to keep things simple. And that we really need to make sure that we fine-tune the benefits. And we have several platforms that we want to build. It's the platforms that the data gives us and what it provides us. How do we change that data into information, to value, value to the customers, value to the utility, value to the regulators? What we want to continue to do is push policy, technology deployment, innovation that Phil talked about earlier, and really continue to accelerate that in the sector. So with that, I'd like to just highlight a couple things. Progress from what we've made. We've installed over 500 synchrophasers on the transmission system, over 6,500 automated switches, over 10,000 automated capacitors, and over 12 million meters in the United States. We're going forward and looking at benefits on the transmission as well as the distribution system, but looking at pilot programs. I know that Steve talked about some innovative rate designs, but also pilot programs at the distribution system, whether they're critical peak pricing, variable peak pricing, but the benefits associated for demand reduction. One of the things that we're driving is reliability improvements, and how do we continue to reduce the time and duration of customer outages. I think there was a great example in what was shown with Mike's presentation on outage management systems and what they're doing. But one of the things that we want to do is actually try to aggregate that data and show the value to the United States as a whole. So we are releasing 3 reports that highlight some of the benefits we've achieved so far. One is on peak demand. One is on operational efficiency at the distribution level. One is on distribution reliability. And the last one is on volt-var. Volt-var optimization is a well-known approach, but we're actually being able to utilize it and take it to the next level. But I guess I can't go any further until I say, what does this really mean? At the end of the day, as Mike brought up, as Phil brought up, it's about the customers. We have to make sure that what we're doing is meaningful to the customers. So the customers generally don't care about the meters, well they do, but what we really got to make meaningful to them is the data. And as we look at the data, we've had over 16 million customers have access to green button data. We have close to 36 million people will have the opportunity to get their green button data. We want to continue to grow that. Having that data allows for technology, for innovation that Phil talked about, the cool apps that are developed. So why did I say that? Because we want to have decision-making tools for the customers. If you go on the Department of Energy's website, we had a Apps for Energy competition. Some of you may be familiar with that. Well, the 2 that I highlight here are what we call the Popular Choice Awards. Why did I pick those 2? Because I want you guys to remember it's about the customer. It's about popularity. It's about how do they make value to meaningful decisions that consumers have. This app was developed by a person that's looking at solar, sizing demand response on a house, and developed an app for the solar panel and the storage, and how a customer can actually utilize that. The next one is an app it's called Velo Bill. but it's actually an app for managing customer consumption. And the reason I put that up there was I thought it was really interesting that it's a meter. And some of us who have cars nowadays, there's a similar meter in your car that also can help you adjust your performance by getting better miles per gallon. What we want to do is make sure the information is simple enough but valuable enough to the customers. So the popularity contest is a great way of being able to evaluate where we're heading, where we need to go. So where do we need in the future? I guess the advice that I give is, for those that are developing apps, make sure you do a pilot with customers. You get that feedback. You adjust your application appropriately based on that feedback. Utilities, guys, improve your customer service centers. I actually loved what Mike said when they would be able to talk to a customer and say, I know your power is out, versus having a customer call and say, my power is out. I think there's a lot of opportunity for growth. So for utilities, I'm going to ask also that you make the data available. You unlock the data in providing access to data to customers. Distribution system. The distribution system, we have a lot of improvements that we've gained on there. All of it's based basically on the meter. The meter provides the data and the platform under which we can do a lot of analytics and provide a lot of value to the distribution system. We're looking at more accurate load profiles. We're looking at outage management systems. We're looking at efficiency improvements. But all that is built on the data that that meter provides. When we talk about outage management systems, I wanted to once again remind everybody how close to home some things are. In Tuscaloosa, Alabama in 2011, there was a series of tornadoes that went through the region. I'm told about 358 tornadoes. That is significant. But what Southern was able to do was actually map the customers that went out without power based on the meter data. What that allowed them to do was look at the positioning of equipment, look at restoration, and be very efficient and effective in how they restored power. Those are the things that we want to continue to build upon, and continue to build upon the things that Mike brought up for his service territory as well. Some other things that we're looking at that will continue to evolve and grow. The Interrupter, with the automated switches that helps minimize customer outages. Once again, great value to consumers. We have to find a way to get consumers to understand the value and what we're doing in the applications on our system. Everybody's getting engaged. This is Cobb. It's electric. What they are doing is their outage management systems. One of the things, if we can get the data and make the data more interoperable, we can advance outage management systems across the country. An ideal vision would be actually to have all that communicating with each other so that the states and other folks can have a comprehensive view of outage management across a region or across an event. Especially for me, who spends a lot of time interfacing with the federal government on hurricanes, derechos. Boy, I wonder how many I can announce over the last 2 years. But there's been a lot of significant events that have been going on where we have to coordinate restoration and restoration processes. Where are we going in the future with the distribution system? IEEE canned the term called active distribution system. But I really think what it is what Mike brought up earlier. And that is the ability to have distributed generation. The ability to have electric vehicles, to be able to manage the distribution system in a new way, but allow for the flexibility. But in and of itself, it's still being able to do system optimization, look at asset optimization. So those are where we're trying to drive in the future and the opportunities. On the transmission system, we have the synchrophasers. I put this up because I wanted to put a plug in for NIST. NIST does a lot of the standardization, some of the testing. We need to make sure that we continue to test and standardize the output of our devices so we can incorporate them in different programs. So what we can do with the phasers is measure the phase angles, but actually look at what is happening on a system. What we want to do from there is be able to look at predicting, looking at contingency analysis, and being able to head towards the future. So one of the strongest things we want to move towards is predictive analysis. What can we do with respect to whether it's asset management on the distribution system or predicting a potential event that may occur on the transmission system? But we want to get more in a predictive mode. I can't have a presentation without talking about cybersecurity. And my priorities with cybersecurity that I want you to be aware of is what we need to do is make sure that we have information sharing. So suppliers, vendors, share your information with your utilities. We want to have information shared between the federal government and industry. We want to actually look at situational awareness, so look at more intrusion detection, more situational awareness tools to make sure they're deployed across the system. The last thing we want to do and push over the next couple of years as a priority is incident management. We have to be able to respond. We need to be able to discuss and respond to incidents that occur on the system. Vendors, I really, really can't stress enough. Make an industry out of this. Test your products. Test and retest your products. Make sure that you go through and do some cybersecurity analysis of your products that you're developing. So how does this come together? I would say it's community to development. Chattanooga is one example, but I could probably put several other cities up there that are moving forward and advancing in technology. But most of all, what they're doing is driving investment in their community, allowing their community to grow and develop. What they're also doing is bringing manufacturing back in, looking at capabilities that can be done at the grassroots level. So with that, I guess I want to say is we still got a lot of work to do. We're not done yet. I mentioned standardization data before. I'd ask the vendors, I'd ask the utilities to participate in the Smart Grid Interoperability Panel to make sure that we continue to move forward on data and data standardization. We want to continue to develop the analytics, make sure that we take the great products and softwares that everyone is developing here and get them into the marketplace. We want to continue to drive some pilots, whether it's innovative rate designs. We need to work with the regulators to try some things to make sure that we continue to advance. The utilities in the future are going to be performance-driven, so we need to have the data and analytics to support that performance-based culture. We want the utilities, we want the industry, we want customers to evolve and change their behavior. And the only way we're going to do that is to work together with the products and the customer service that you all provide here today. So with that, I want to thank you very much for your time and attention, and I appreciate you all being here today.